turkeys, pigs, fowl. Oh, the other thing I used to made a lot of bloody money off when I was a lad growing up. We had hens which are called light Sussex. They're still about now, you don't see many of them. Light Sussex. They were big hens, big furry hens, if you know.
Furry.
Made very, very good mothers.
Yeah.
And you put 2 goose eggs under one of those when they were sitting, and they'd sit those and rear them. And then when they got to a few weeks old, I used to sell them. Goslings in the market. Because you could buy a goose egg, I don't know, for about £1, and you could get about 50 shillings for about a goose, a young gosling. That was the difference.
So it was worth...
Oh God, yeah. And my mother would say, we've got a few Sussex hens, where are they? Oh, you've got them, have you? Because I've not built places for them to go, and I got it all worked out. And I went to Nantwich Market. God. Put on a bike and cycled in with bloody goslings on the back and sold them. I mean, it's unheard of, isn't it?
Mm.
I used to get all the mushrooms from locally and sell them as well, and shoot rabbits and sell them, and pigeons and sell them.
So if it moved, you shot it and sold it?
Eh?
If it moved, you shot it and sold it?
Absolutely. Of course, this butcher came in very handy because, of course, he used to buy all my rabbits off me and pigeons and God knows what. Mainly because my grandfather taught him as a boy.
Mm.
I was well up with him, you know. Gaffer Thomas's grandson. Gaffer Thomas's grandson could get anywhere and do anything. It was a very, very good thing. I didn't realise that what a thing it was at the time. But all these local businessmen and all the rest of them taught by my grandfather. And there used to be a bakery right next to the school, and the 2 chaps that ran the bakery were both being taught by my grandfather. And when we were, of course, used to be dead hungry and God knows what us lads are, and I used to whiz over the wall, go up to this bakery during playtime, and they'd give me a bit of a loaf and they'd take it over and rip it apart and everybody. This went on regularly, only because they knew I was Gaffer Thomas's grandson. I didn't realise at the time what it did mean, but I did realise later on when I got a big paper round, and the paper round for Saturdays and Sundays was a big paper round. I only did Saturdays and Sundays and holiday times, but it was a big round. It went from Nantwich right through to Corbett, which was 15 miles. And again, I used to drop all these papers in, and a lot of these farmers, a lot of these people have been taught by my grandfather. And there was 3 other lads on the same racket. When it came to Christmas time, I was loaded up with, not because I was the nice looking lad or anything like that, but because it was Gaffer Thomas's grandson. Apples, oranges, money, tips and everything. Just because of that. And I realised that for a long, but I was for a long time older before I did realise it. Honestly. Just shows you, doesn't it? Gaffer Thomas's grandson. And my other grandfather, of course, was a local farmer. He got 350 acres.
So your Gaffer Thomas. Thomas was his first or last name.
Eh?
Was he Thomas
Thomas.
Cresswell?
No, it was Thomas, his name was.
Yeah.
No. Oh, he was a brainy bugger, he was. One of my father's best friends, a chap named Eardley Wright, who ended up a multi-millionaire, he had a grandpa, he'd been in the war, he'd been a spotter in the war, flying chipmunks over German territory, not marking them down where everything was. You'd only got shot down once, twice, and photographing them, so that they could bomb them, God knows what. But he was ever so decent chap, a big friend of the old man's. He said to me, he says, all the brains that come out in your family, he said, they'll all come from Gaffer Thomas, your grandfather's. He said he got brains to burn. He was right, all his kids reared, all the kids that he reared, a lot of these things come out with us, our children here, all come from him, You can tell these things.
Yeah.
Natural brain.
Cunning.
Yeah. They made him the local tax collector.
Yeah.
He used to collect the taxes. And I thought, clever buggers, weren't they? I mean, then the tax people weren't they? I mean, the government people. Who'd be the man to get the money out of these bloody farmers? Because a lot of them were rich farmers, didn't want to pay any bloody tax. Who'd be the man to get them out, to make them pay up and everything they did? He was the local tax collector.
That's one way of getting shot.
Yeah.
So was he a scary man then?
Not particularly, no. Not to me, anyway. I used to sit on his knee, and when I was a little lad, I can remember, he bought me my first bike. It was a girl's bike too, which I'd never thought much about, but it was second-hand, of course, painted up, because you couldn't buy bloody bikes then. But he bought me only a little bike, I remember. He was very kind. But you remember things like that, he smoked a pipe, and he always he'd be sitting on his knee, and we'd be chatting away, and he'd get his pipe.
So what age did he live to?
72. Died at Chester.
Was it smoking that did him in?
No, I don't think so, no. Probably.
Alcohol.
He liked to drop a scotch. But that really didn't kill him, I don't think. No, just when he died, that was a good age.
Yeah. Yeah, technology's moved on, innit?
Oh, a lot, yeah.
I mean, then I suppose if you had blood pressure, you were stuffed.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's just,
Yeah.
like a headache.
Yeah. You have to get off me knee, I've got a bone in my knee. To say, because you used to get, same as I've got my bloody knees at the moment. I think he had a bit of rheumatism and all of that. He used to. Gaffer Thomas. He taught a lad, and this lad's still alive. Well, he's a man now, he's 98. And this chap's parents kept the local sweet shop, an ice cream shop. And you don't know how things mix with brains and God knows what, but he used to say he was the brainiest man he'd ever come across. And as it turned out, he was. And he just solved some mystery that I don't know, but I speak to one of the lads from Audrum now. He rings me up occasionally and we have a bit of a rattle. He's still going, George, this was a few years ago, George Beeman, he's still going, and he's just solved this damn great thing that people have been trying to do for years, and he's done it. I forget what it was. It was some, but he was so clever. This lad was, and come from nothing parents.
Mm.
You know,
So
very very ordinary and
so he didn't have the opportunities that, you know.
yeah. My grandfather said he was the brainiest lad he ever had. George Beeman. And when we moved to Potteries once, we were out one day. We used to go to the local speedway place right in Hamlin. And I turned round one day and there was George sitting. Oh, he got a peculiar mannerism. Oh, you know, one of those. You'd think he was half-wit. But I remember seeing him. I was very surprised to see him, you know, a speedway race racing, but he was there. I enjoyed it. So. But I'm sure he must have. He was still going last year, that's for sure. I'll have to ring my pal up.
Mm. So is he local?
Huh?
Does he live locally then, or
Who?
George?
George Beeman, Audlem.
Mm.
Yeah, it's Beeman's Ice Cream. The shop's still there under Beeman's. I mean, there's no Beeman's in it now,
Yeah,
but
right.
it's still under Beeman's Ice Cream, yeah.
So he made his fortune.
Well, he made a living. He made his fortune with his head, I think.
Mm.
But he used to serve. He used to serve ice cream. George did, and I never used. Oh dear, he got long fingernails. You know. Do you remember the old? I don't suppose you would. Making ice cream.
No.
They had like a square thing with a spring on it. And you pulled it down,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you put a wafer in there, and you put the ice cream on it, and put the top on it, and lifted it, and it came up, and he gave you the ice cream. Well, George used to always grow his thumbnail on one of them. He used to flick it off. Oh dear, how daft things you remember, don't you? Used to make nice ice cream, Beeman's ice cream.
With fingernail marks.
Yeah, George's fingernail. Yeah. I wonder if the bugger's still going. He'd solve this. This pal of mine said, listen, they've been trying to solve this for 150 years, and George has done it. I forget what it was. I ought to find out. I will find out what it was. It was some mathematical thing, and
Mm-hmm.
George had done it. And Gaffer Thomas taught him. And he wasn't a very tall chap. And then they used to laugh about him. Some of these blokes did, you know, and he was talking to me as his grandson. And apparently when he got he used to stick him, he was very good with a stick, I believe. And he used to bend over and he'd whack, and as he whacked him, he'd jump off the ground. That's what he used to say.
Got some real force.
Yeah,
Why would he give people the stick?
because he'd bloody done something sodding wrong. Didn't you have the stick?
What, was he a teacher or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the headmaster.
I had. Yeah. Yeah, when we got the stick, we got the stick. This was in Algeria, not in England. In Algeria, you had to do that, and you got
Well, we had
whacked.
both things. You know, it was one on the hand, or two on the hand, and or one on the arse, or two on the arse. But if you did that while you were doing it, they gave you one on the arse.
Yeah. Well, it's that on the end of your fingers.
Oh right. Yeah.
Yeah, that hurt. And if you flinched, it doubled.
Yeah.
So you just close your eyes and brace yourself.
Yes, but turned down like that.
You'd hear it whistling through the
Yeah.
sound, through the air.
I didn't get the stick much, but I got it again when I'd done something wrong. I remember getting it once. I had some smashing friends, pals. We were a gang of about 4 that did all the bloody troublemaking in the whole area, never mind the school.
Why does that not surprise me?
We had a big garden at our school. This is the same school that my grandfather taught at, Autumn Grammar School. And it was a very good big garden because they always had gardening there. And there was old apple trees and God knows what, dams and trees. And I remember getting whacked for, there was about 3 or 4 trees in a row. And some of my pals were up on the other one and we were all wicking one another with bloody damsons and God knows what. Of course the gaffer comes round the corner. My office first. All of us got the bloody whack for. Instead of we used to supposed to gather the bloody damsons because they used them for cooking in the school because they had all their own cooks and everything for our school. And all the garden stuff went from the garden to the kids. And this one pal of mine, he was a rum bugger, he was a lad named Langley, he's died. Graham Langley. They had a competition for growing potatoes. Everybody had a row of potatoes, and obviously they were all got up and weighed and God knows what. The ones that got those potatoes had it. A lot of luck attached to it. They won. Of course, Langley and I were way ahead of bloody people. Oh, it was. And what had happened? He got down there early one morning and taken a lot of potatoes and stuck them under our row, you know. When it came to lift them up, because got all our potatoes. Oh dear. And we won the prize and God knows what.
Yeah. So didn't you know the JCB man, the one who founded JCB?
Yeah, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
What was he like?
Down to earth.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He rang me up one day. We did a lot of work for him at one time, but we wouldn't get involved. We did get involved with a lot of their part making, but then I soon bloody came out of it because, you know what I mean, they could give you a dozen to do and then they'd, oh yes, price is all right, yeah, get them in. And then next they'd give you 2 dozen and then they'd want 100 next week and, and then they want the price dropping and they did it with a lot of folk, that's why he ruined a lot of companies actually doing that.
Yeah.
But he was all right, Joe was. Rang me up one day. Can you come down to me? Bring your foreman with you. So, yes, I said yes, we come down to Mr. Cheadle down here when they got the place at Cheadle. She's going back a long time. I want a cab making. We used to do a lot of the preparatory work. A lot of the one-offs.
Yeah.
He'd bought this is when they made the first little digger, this is years ago. And he was wanted a cab for this. A lot of men got cabs really, but he wanted a cab making for this JCB. And he was there. There was a big sheet of metal, black metal, and he got a piece of chalk in his hand and they were measuring it and he was drawing it out just as he wanted it and blah 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 blah. And he wanted it, this was on the Friday or the Thursday, I might be wrong, but he wanted it within 2 days. And our blokes worked over it all night and God knows what they did it for him. And it's still the same pattern now that's on that thing that we made.
Yeah.
This must be. Mick Jones did it, so it must be 30 years ago. Yeah, it must be. And then we had to make another one quickly because the roof wasn't right. When he drew it out, he'd left the roof flat, and then he realised that he wanted sort of dome on it, so the water would run off it. So we had to make another one and alter the roof on it. But he was, yes, Nick met you a time or two. In fact, Nick, how these things happen, don't they? When I went out on the road, selling for the company, which I did for years, I was the outside man flogging stuff for years. But when my grandfather, when I learned the trade, supposedly, and best suit, away you go, take it out with you, and go around and get some business. But you can't go to any customers that we're doing now. We do it now. So I did this. We got Creeder. We haven't had Creeder. We got Creeder account. It was the best account we ever had.
Creeder, what's that? The
Creeder Electric.
Oh yeah.
Used to be. It's gone now. Finished.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Cookers
and washing machines.
Yes, and washing machines. Yeah. Well, that was a very, very big account. I got a chap named Jack Harrison who used to lived in Cheadle, and he was a big pal of mine. And he was on the hay diddle a bit, but still that didn't matter. I didn't worry. But anyway, so that was, I got a lot of other customers apart from that. Built up a great big round of new customers. So when it came to Nick going out onto the road, because I did the same thing with him, he'd been worked through the business, right through as a little lad really, same as I did. When he went out to the road, I said, listen, your great-grandfather sent me out. You can go anywhere you like, but not to anybody we do business with now. So Nick, he'll tell you the same thing. So what did he do? JCB. So he went to JCB. He'll tell you the story himself. He went in to JCB and he was sitting down waiting to see a lad named Keats. And this chap wanders in and asks him all about it, what he's doing there, and he sat him out. Didn't tell him for ages. And that was Joe Bamford.
Yeah.
Left his card when Nick went. Here's my card.
So he knew who Nick was, but...
Anyway, Nick got that account eventually. I met his son, the one that's the boss now. How these things happen. Because he only lived up the road, he's still got the house there, great big hall up the road, Oh yeah, just as you go into yes, you're going right down to Alton Towers. There's a massive hall there, great big white place. Have you ever seen it on the left-hand side? You go in, massive place, all nicely.
Oh yeah.
It's nicely finished off.
Yeah, it's on this side of the road.
Yeah, on this side of the road. Yeah, and he bought that, and he owns all the property. Well, because he owns all the bloody farm around actually. But he moved down to Gloucester, and he's never been there since. Although I don't know, somebody must be there because they keep it up all the time. I don't know. But anyway. I was going down here one day and I'd got a load of muck on a cart, on the Fordson tractor, and when you load the muck onto the cart, I think it was horse muck and hay and God knows what, and stuck the fork in the stuff on the back of the tractor, on the back of the trailer. Going down here, going along, I thought, what the bloody hell's this? And it was Anthony Bamford, the fork, he would come along and his Mercedes behind the fork, behind me, and the fork had dropped out on the road in front of his Merc. Didn't hurt it, didn't touch it. Good job he did. But he was, and I said, oh, sorry about that. I knew he was Mr. Bamford. I said, Mr. Bamford, he was before he was Sir. Anyway, we got chatting and, oh, you live down the farm now? Yeah, I said, yeah. Anyway, so that's the only time I've met him, the only time I really, well, no, that's not quite true. I did have crossed with him, not cross, but I did come into contact with him a few years after that. Down in that field down, don't you think I have a funny life? In that field across the road there, you know, the one we call the Pingle.
Yeah.
I must have been doing something, put some jumps up or something like that, and I found great rucks of packets of tungsten carbide tips. Loads of them, about 30 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Same as we use on lathes and things like that. You know, the tips that are tungsten carbide and they do the turning. But they were all new, these were. And they got JCB on them, on the package. I thought, that, how have these buggers got here? I mean, I never did find out how they got there. I only assumed somebody must have pinched them and gone past in the car. I didn't want them, chucked them over the wall. But there must have been, I don't know, probably about 200 quid's worth, or maybe that, maybe more. So I didn't want them because they were too big for all our machines. They wouldn't have been any bloody good else he wouldn't have got them back. So I rang him up. Well, he says, this is the second time I spoke to him, very strange that was. And I told him where it was, and right by the river. And so I don't know how on earth they got there, and God knows what. He said, put them on one side and I'll send my man down immediately. And he did. He sent a taxi, his own vehicle down to collect them from the works. Rang me up and thanked me. I never do that, but obviously somebody pinched him and chucked him over the wall. So yes, I did. That's the only time I saw him again. I spoke to him again. But Joe Bamford was he was down to earth bloody man.
Yeah. Didn't you also know the chap that made the cement mixer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was his name? It was a rum bugger he was. This was the father. I knew the father. I knew the son rather than the father. Although I'd met both of them, we did business with them. Sold a lot of stuff. What the hell was his name? He made a lot of money out of his cement mixers. He patented the right to a mix over a motor or something like that. It was such a simple principle that nobody could break the rule on it at all. You know, because I remember our accountant used to do the accountants for him. He said, if you ever do anything like that, he says, keep it simple. He said, because just 2 words will put it right. And anyway, this or that. But his father was a big train enthusiast, and he got this place. Well, they've still got it, still make them up there. He's still the place is still there as far as I know. But he put a whole railway around, about 3 or 4 fields, and he used to steam engine. Used to go round on this thing. Yeah, this was the father. That was his fun. The son, we do very well. Nick doing very well because he's about the same age as Nick, and we did a lot of business with him. But he Who's that?
It was JD. You didn't see him?
No.
No, he's just gone again. He wasn't hanging around.
He went the other way a bit. The old man had built up this business, and I don't know, they were turning out hundreds of these buggers. Everybody had got them, and made a lot of money. And the old man died, and he went a bit wild. The lad did, the son did, you know. Married a French girl, and God knows what, and lived the life, and gave it some stick. And as far as I know, he's still the boss there. I'm not sure at all about that, because we don't do any business with them. They got too keen with their prices. We couldn't bloody, you know, they were buying off manufacturers with their stuff, you know, and we couldn't do anything. I mean, we did to start with when they were, you know, they wanted a leg up. But as far as I know, he's still the boss there, I'm sure. I'm not sure about that. When Nick comes down, I'll ask him.
But you can't remember his name?
No. He was a very nice lad, nice looking lad as well. Of course, the women were after him, and of course he got God knows what, as you can imagine. With emergency calls only. Something went wrong with his phone I was talking to him earlier.
Who's that, Nick?
Oh. Call not allowed? Oh, it's ringing now. Hi Nick, I was just telling Al about the mixer people who make concrete mixers. What's the name of it? Hey? Bal, yeah. Yeah, but who's the bloke who ran it, the lad, his son? Sam Blackhurst. Couldn't think of his bloody name to tell him. Is he still doing it, by the way? Oh. Was it? They still make the mixers, do they? So he was shacked up with a French woman, wasn't he? All right. He's still shacked up with him, do you know? Yeah. Rum lad, wasn't he? A dickhead, yes he was, wasn't he? Yeah. I was just telling Al about him, you know. Yeah, it's okay, Nick. Right, thanks, bye. Sam Blackhurst, yeah.
Who, the guy who invented it?
He sold it.
So who was the father? Was that Sam?
No, Sam was the son. Bill Blackhurst.
Bill.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was the clever one who built it all up. And got into a hell of a business.
Well, they always say that the first generation makes it, the second generation enjoys it, and the third generation kills it.
Yeah, well, it's funny. He says he's shacked up. He's still shacked up with this French woman who was a very nice looking bird, apparently. But he would have come out of it all right. Sam would have, because I bet he got a hell of a price for it. Because you still see him everywhere now. Balmex, if you open, I noticed that when I was looking for the screw fix list, they got them advertised in there, and everybody has ball mixers.
Yeah.
They're cheap and they're reliable.
Yeah, what TVR's made locally? TVR's? Is that a local company?
Oh dear. Now you start another bloody thing, don't you? Another episode in my life. There's a chap there's a farm up the road there, and it was owned by a local family man. Had it for years anyway. He snuffed it, and it was bought by a young couple. And it turned out that he owned TVR cars, and I didn't know that. Didn't know anything about it, but except he used to go past here every day. It was one of the first ones that had Ford engine in. I forget the bloody one it was, and it was a lovely sounding car, as they all did. All he said he made them to sound well, not to particularly good, as long as they sounded. He was bloody right as well. People used to buy them on the sound. Anyway, I stopped him one day and just to have a word with him in the lane here. And I said, I like the sound of this bloody car, he's smashing into it. He said, do you want to go in it? I said, yeah. So he let me have a go in it anyway. I ended up a few months later buying it off him. It was right money, and God, I think it was about £5,000. It was a smashing car. And I ran it for a long time, that car. Actually, it was one of the best. I had about 4 TVRs, but it was one of the best that I had. But it got some very funny things on it. But anyway, that's another story. There's always a story with me. And I got to know him very well. And again, before he bought TVRs, he got a company down in Rugeley way making containers for the salt industry, I think, or something like that. But it was a good business, and that's what I bought TVR cars, which was going down back, by the way, was about to go bump, and he bought them. And anyway, when it came to, I got to know him very well, and his wife. They were a very nice couple. And I used to go and sit up there and have a word with them, and God knows what. And it came to altering the farm, which they altered it tremendously, put pieces on, and we made a right nice job of it. And I sold him all the stuff to do it, and it was all booked to the company as God knows what, which we did a lot of that those days. And he never forgot it. And anyway, he went on success, and got different cars, a different car every 2 or 3 years. He produced, a better car and God knows what. And I ended up buying 3 off him in the end. And they were always good cars. But I did buy one off him, a black one, and something broke on the suspension on it. And it was serious breakage. And when he heard about it, he sent a bloody lorry down for the car straight away and replaced it with another really good one.
Mm.
The latest next one. He said, well, that'll do you. I said, well, I suppose it'll have to do. It was a 350, you know, it was a lot more money than. But it was serious, you know, and I knew it was the fact that he wanted it back out the way before it caused an accident and anybody knew anything about it.
Yeah.
And so it was hush money a bit. So, but I ran that for years, and yeah, that was a damn good car. They were all good cars, and of course the fact they were fiberglass, they never rotted at all.
Mm. Just the chassis.
Well, they're not so bad on the chassis. No, they ended up good chassis in the end. Some of the other ones were a bit dirty, but the 350i, which I had, was a bloody good car, that was. But the funny thing I was going to tell you on this first one, because a lot of people never notice these sort of things, being an ironmonger of old repute, I looked down to where the hinge things went.
Mm.
And you know what a spout bolt's like, don't you? Galvanised bolt
Mm.
with a square nut on.
Yeah.
And not having a hexagon nut and a hexagon bolt and all the rest of it. He'd got a bloody spout bolt in there. Nick will tell you, because I made a big song and dance about having bloody spout bolts in your car. You know, it was really, I don't know why they did it, but it was just, I suppose, just how it went, didn't it? But to put a cheap spout bolt in the hinge of the car one, you know, and it was a bit of fun, so I used to get on him about that. You still got your spout bolts for the door? No, we put special lock nuts and God knows what. But on the original one they got spout bolts. But it was a bloody good car. I ran that for years, quite some years, and gave it some stick. And I sold it for more than I paid him.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why does that not surprise me, John?
Just surprised me. No, it did. Yeah, and ran it for years. I think Nick's got a photograph of it somewhere. It was a nice car, a blue one.
So would you not have another one?
Well, again, to go on with the story. He split up with his wife. He was a very clever chap, and his wife was a very brainy sort of woman, and they were two very clever people. You know what I mean?
Mm.
They were very nice people too, but they split up. He buggered off with somebody, and she was left on the farm down here, farming it herself, because she'd come from farming stock. That's right. Her father was a farmer down in Worcester, and she kept it going up there. But she died quite early. Didn't have a long life. And he married. He was already married to this woman before she died. She was ever so nice looking. So was he. They were a nice looking couple. You know, very handsome, the pair of them.
Mm.
But they ended up split up. And anyway, she died. Maggie Wheeler, and he shacked up with this other one. He had 2 or 3 other kids. They never had any kids, these two. Whether she could or not, I never know. Possibly she couldn't.
Mm.
Anyway, but he died quite young too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only lasted a few years after her. He was only sort of early 60.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just as he designed the last one, the last one that's done, and it was sold to. I tell a lie. He sold it before he died. He'd already sold it. I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. He had sold the company to, I think, some American people who were going to do wonders with it, and I think he retired, and then he died, but they didn't do any wonders with it at all. And somebody else did buy it off. The money was going down again, and I think they do make quite a
Still
decent
run.
car now.
Because my brother had a TVR Tuscan.
That's the one I had, Tuscan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of them. With the curved, is it curved back window?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was absolute beast.
Great car.
Yeah. Yeah.
TVR Tuscan, yeah.
Yeah. The absolute monster of a car.
Yeah.
Sort of really powerful. Really
Oh, they
powerful.
were.
No ABS or
Oh, what?
none of that, you know. So if you floored it in the wet, it's supposed to be absolutely brutal.
Absolutely was, no question about it. Undrivable in icy conditions.
Or even in the wet, it'd be.
Well, yes, you have to be very careful going on these roads around here.
Yeah.
I nearly lost it on that big corner around there, Woods twice. But they were undrivable in. I used to drive the bloody old Land Rover than go out in that. Because it got so much bloody power. And,
Yeah.
But a lovely noise going under the tunnel bridge.
Yeah.
Oh, and he always used to say, he was a clever chap, you know. He built the cars around the noise. So that's what he always used to say.
That's what draws people's attention.
Yeah.
Dinner time.
Yeah.
What is it?